guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mills, and today I am doing a true crime case. As I updated in the community tab, I'm going to do the case of Paulette Gebara Farah. That's a case from Mexico. You may have heard of it before, but I wanted to cover it because Netflix just came out with a new series, Search, and it covers this case very extensively, and I just finished the whole series. I thought it would be good to kind of go back, take a look at what happened for some of you that are unfamiliar with it. I, of course, would love to hear any of your thoughts or comments or theories down in the comments if you would like to leave them. And of course, I don't mean any disrespect to anyone that I'm talking about in this video. I'm just compiling the research that I found about the case and presenting it to you. So I first heard about this case several years ago, and it was instantly very interesting to me, as I'm sure it was to those of you who have heard of it as well, just because it is a bizarre one, guys. Let me tell you what happened, and then we'll get into some of the theories and whatnot. Paulette was born on July 20th, 2005 in Mexico City to her parents, Lizette Farah and Mauricio Gebara. They lived in a very nice community in Mexico. She also had an older sister who was named Lizette after the mother. Paulette had some physical impairments as well as a language disorder, so it was hard for her to speak, and she could not move as well as other children could. Because of this, the family needed more help, so they had two nannies that were basically full-time for Paulette specifically. Their names were Erica and Martha Casimiro. Like I said, they lived in a very affluent area. Mauricio worked in real estate and Lizette was an attorney. On Monday, March 22nd, 2010, the nanny Erica went into Paulette's room to wake her up, and she wasn't in her bed. She quickly searched the room and then immediately went to wake up Lizette and tell her that Paulette wasn't in her bed. The family instantly searched their house. They searched different rooms. They searched the property. They actually lived in a big apartment complex, and it was closed off and gated. So they searched the whole community. No neighbors had seen her. No signs of forced entry. No broken windows. She was on the second floor and just had one window in her room, which was completely normal and intact. They have two dogs, neither of which barked at any point in the middle of the night or in the morning. There was also no sign of any theft or robbery. After they searched on their own, Mauricio called his sister, who called the police very quickly. All of the police are instantly at the house searching. The family was very well connected, and I believe it was Mauricio's family had a connection to the government, and because of this, Alberto Vazquez, who was the Attorney General of the state of Mexico at the time, instantly became involved in the case himself. And again, because of the status of the family and the fact that they were in a very nice neighborhood in Mexico City, it instantly became a media frenzy. Typically, a girl missing wouldn't spark this much of a media coverage, but because of the family and who they were and their connections, it did. Lizette said on Sunday night, the night before, she put Paulette to bed as she always did, and everything was fine and normal. Police brought dogs in to sniff for Paulette's scent. They searched the house extensively, and that night Lizette went on to the news channel to make a public plea for the return of her daughter. She said that whoever had Paulette could just leave her in a shopping center, at a mall, at a grocery store, and just walk away so they wouldn't be held responsible at all. Doubt was pretty quickly cast upon the family. They had some undercover conversations recorded between Lizette and Mauricio which raised suspicion, and Lizette also had a conversation that was recorded with her older daughter, Lizette, and she said something along the lines of, "Don't say anything about what happened to Paulette, they won't understand it, and you know, basically it will make us look bad, so just don't say anything about what happened." So people were like, that's suspicious. Lizette gave several interviews in Paulette's room, just kind of talking about Paulette, what she was like, what happened, showing some of her things. The police were interviewing both parents, they were interviewing the nannies, they were interviewing one of Lizette's close friends who was there and kind of helping with the search. The investigators were at the house a lot doing recreations with the blankets. They were very extensively searching the house for any sign of Paulette, interviewing all the neighbors. Like I said, none of the neighbors saw anything that night. They didn't see Paulette come or go or anything odd. Also, because of Paulette's disabilities, they said that she wouldn't be able to have left on her own. On March 29th, Alberto Vazquez announced that the parents and both nannies would be in police custody due to inconsistencies in all of their statements. So they said that at some point within the week, all four of them had kind of given confusing or conflicting information. So they first went to the police station, more interviews, and then they were taken to a hotel under police surveillance where they were answering more questions and kind of just waiting there while the investigation was ongoing. There was speculation about the parents from the beginning. Lizette had actually gone on vacation with her best friend, the one that was at the house helping with the search. They discovered that Lizette actually had a lover and was cheating on Mauricio. Lizette said he was aware, and they were trying to kind of keep that out of the news because they said it had nothing to do with the disappearance. She was simply at the beach on vacation. They also kind of looked at Mauricio because he was a gambler and he was in some debt, so they worried that maybe he had a motive to do something to Paulette. But this was all speculation at that time, and they were just in the hotel under the police custody, waiting for more developments in the investigation. On March 31st, so this is 9 days after Paulette was first reported missing, police investigators actually find her body in her room at around 2 a.m. During the search, they were recording, and that video was actually leaked with audio. And one of the investigators can be heard saying that Paulette was severely beaten. And in the video, you see several blood stains on her bed sheets. The Attorney General Vazquez almost instantly refuted these claims and said that Paulette died accidentally. They ruled that it was mechanical asphyxia due to an obstruction of her nasal cavities and thorax abdominal compression. So basically suffocation. During the first autopsy, they found that Paulette had two vertical adhesive squares on her cheeks. So kind of like residue from tape or something like that. And they also found that she had a blow to her left elbow and her knee, but they ruled that there was no sign of sexual or physical violence. The autopsy also showed that Paulette slept with an orthopedic cloth over her mouth, and the family backed this up and said that she slept with that every night due to her disabilities. It was an orthopedic designed cloth to keep her mouth shut while she was sleeping. What's interesting is the autopsy originally said that Paulette died 3 days prior to being found. And remember, she was found 9 days prior. So this led people to believe that she was alive for 5 to 6 days before being discovered. However, before the official report was given, they changed that date to say that she had died 5 to 9 days prior, and they speculated that she was actually dead on the first day, but no official date or time was ever given. It was that 5 to day range with the speculation that it was day 1. No drugs or any substance were found in Paulette's system. They ruled that she accidentally rolled down to the bottom of her bed and got tangled up in her sheets and asphyxiated. Something to mention is, you'll see it in the video and it makes more sense, but she had a big wooden bed frame, and instead of a full-size bed, they had a kid's bed on the frame. So there was a gap at the end of the bed of extra space. Because of her disabilities, they said she would roll a lot, and they put 2 large pillows on either side of her, kind of creating a tunnel so she didn't fall off the bed. And they also had a bunch of sheets. They had numerous sheets, numerous blankets on her. She didn't have the muscle strength to pull herself back up. They also said that kind of body decomposition or stench was covered up because of the amount of sheets and blankets that were there. On April 3rd, Lizette claimed that she had absolutely no involvement in her daughter's death. Specialists who were interviewing Lizette determined that she had personality disorders of some type, and that could be why she was responding differently during interviews and during the whole police investigation, honestly, because she seemed very kind of removed, wasn't crying a lot, seemed kind of relaxed, I would say. Like, she wasn't acting how you would expect someone to act. However, as we know, you can't really judge someone on their reaction after a tragedy. On April 4th, Mauricio, Lizette, Erica, and Martha, the nannies, were released from the hotel in police custody, and the only stipulation was that they were not allowed to leave the country. On April 5th, Mauricio gave an interview and Lizette gave an interview separately. Lizette said that her husband blames her, and Mauricio said that he does not believe Paulette's death was an accident and he doesn't fully trust Lizette. On April 6th, Paulette was finally buried. Lizette, her mother, headed up the procession, and the Gebara family was not allowed at the funeral at all due to some type of agreement that they had. Mauricio tried to keep custody of his older daughter, which she had had for several days then, but Lizette fought that, and on May 10th, she was granted full custody of her older daughter. On May 26th, Alberto Vaz resigned as state attorney general, and he said it was only because he lost confidence in himself, because he was coming under a lot of fire during all of this investigation. A lot of people were questioning his competency, questioning all of his actions throughout the case. So he said he stands behind the decisions, that he stands behind the conclusion that it was accidental, but he no longer wanted to be the attorney general. And on May 3rd, 2017, 7 years after Paulette's death, her body was exhumed so she could be cremated, because they had finally ruled that her body was no longer any type of evidence in the case and it was closed. Now I'll talk about some of the inconsistencies or conspiracies about this case. Martha and Erica, Paulette's two nannies, said that when they realized that she was missing on Monday morning, they instantly searched the entire house. They searched her sister's room, the 7-year-old. They searched all over the entire house. They said that they pulled the sheets back, they pulled the blankets down, they lifted the mattress, they were in the closet. They said that hundreds of people had been in the house investigating that entire week, and they both claim that there's no way that they would not have noticed Paulette at the base of the bed frame because of not only them pulling it up and looking, but every other investigator that was in and out of the house during that time. Another weird conspiracy or inconsistency, some say, was a YouTube video released in 2010 that was talking about the strange case of Paulette's pajamas. It was picked up and disseminated by some different media sources, so a lot of people saw this, and what they noticed was comparisons between the photos of Paulette's body being found in blue and white pajamas with little reindeers on them, kind of like Christmas pajamas, versus an interview that Lizette gave a few days prior to Paulette being found. In this interview, and the news later got the full uncut version of the interview, Lizette is showing some of Paulette's possessions, and she brings up these pajamas, and the reporter asks about them, and she says that they were her sister's. And then the interviewer is just like, okay, puts them on the side of the bed. And then later in interviews throughout the week, people notice those same pair of pajamas now in Paulette's closet. So they were kind of suspicious. Why would you put her sister's pajamas back in Paulette's closet and not back in her sister's room? Also, Lizette never said anything about having two pairs of these pajamas. And when the body was discovered in these pajamas, the original pair that was found in the interview just a few days before, or the second pair I should say, was never seen again. They haven't found it since. So what people think is there was only one pair. Someone changed Paulette at some point before she was discovered for some reason, or she wasn't dead and died later, like the original autopsy said, and she was put into these pajamas. Also, just from an investigative standpoint, the investigation could have been a lot more secure from the beginning. Like I said, hundreds of people were in and out of her room right away. Investigators were using Paulette's toilet to go to the bathroom. They were not securing it or wearing the proper gear right from the beginning until they brought in some more experienced investigators. So that could have messed up some of the evidence right from the beginning, possibly. I didn't really talk about Amanda de la Rosa, but she is a big part in the Netflix series, so if you watch that, you'll see what I mean. But she had several statements, and she was really trying to get in front of the cameras and give interviews and whatnot. She actually ended up even writing a book about what she thinks happened and her side of the case, which was against the wishes of the family. She was actually investigated briefly because she slept in Paulette's bed for several days. After her disappearance, she instantly came to the house to help because Lizette was her best friend, and she slept in Paulette's bed. They didn't notice any bloody sheets, any odor, anything, and they said each morning it was remade. However, I think it could have just been the sheets were pulled, back up every day rather than the bed fully being changed, but she said that she thinks there was no way that Paulette could be in the same bed as she was sleeping in for several days. Something else that was ruled suspicious was that tape that I referred to of the investigators finding Paulette's body and saying she was severely beaten, showing the blood stains on the sheets, and then pulling back the sheets and blankets to reveal her whole body. It is speculated by a lot of experts that this actually wasn't a live video or the discovery of Paulette's body, but rather a reenactment. They say, first of all, filming this at 2 a.m. would be very rare, as most investigations take place during the day. And the investigators were also speaking with a very mechanical tone. There was no shock at finding her body. They said all the evidence was right where they needed it to be, and it seemed kind of like a reenactment. Another inconsistency is the autopsy and why they changed the date from 3 days since she was dead to 5 to 9 days. This was never really expanded on, and they said the evidence doesn't quite match up with the 5 to 9 day official report, but nothing was really ever expanded on with that. I brought up the video recording with Lizette and her 7-year-old daughter. Lizette tells the daughter not to say anything about Paulette's disappearance. When her daughter asks why, she said otherwise they'll blame us for stealing her or say that you took her away to be stolen. Lizette first said she didn't say this, and then she said she did say it, but not in the context at all as what they pulled that little clip from. Lizette also claims that her marriage was kind of troubled from prior, Paulette's disappearance wasn't the cause of this or why they ended up divorcing, which they did after Paulette's death. She did have a lover, and she was with him on vacation with Amanda de la Rosa the week before, but she said her husband was aware of him and it was fine. She actually sued the Mexican government for 531 million pesos, basically for slandering her name, saying that she was guilty. At first, they pointed a lot of fingers at her, and she wanted compensation for that, and she does blame them for the dissolution of her marriage as well. They're separated today, and Lizette still has custody of her older daughter. And from what I have seen, the research that I have done, a lot of Mexicans think that the family is guilty and that something did happen and that they kind of got away with it in some sense. So I would be really interested to hear what you guys think. You think that it was an accident? If any one person was involved, what happened? Everything that was released in the final official report points to it being an accident. I think it's hard for a lot of us to grasp that this could happen and it could be an accident and there could be hundreds of people in a room and not notice a body kind of wedged between a frame and a mattress. I guess it is possible. So yeah, I don't want to speculate too much. The Netflix documentary goes into a ton more details. Overall, that is the case pretty much in its entirety. So definitely comment below, let me know your thoughts. And it's a tragic case, whatever did happen, because Paulette was a beautiful, innocent girl, and unfortunately her life was ended way too early through no fault of her own, of course. So it definitely is a tragedy and one of the most notorious cases, I think, within the area. and was definitely huge at the time, even in the States. If you have any other suggestions or recommendations for another case that you would like me to cover, I would love to do the research and put that together, so I would appreciate that. And if these videos are interesting to you, or my other non-crime related videos, if you would hit subscribe, I'd really appreciate that. So thank you so much for watching, and I will be back with another video soon.